Well, hello, everybody, and good day. Thanks once again for tuning in to MLA's Move Language Ahead's free teacher training talk time series. This is episode 6. We're really excited to be coming to you today with a fantastic new topic, a topic that was suggested by one of you, one of our attendees from last week, and that was about the use of debate inside of our virtual lessons. So I'm really pleased to be joined once again by my colleague, Tanya Marquez, our academic director for MLA, and we're going to be tackling today MLA's Talk Time, episode 6, The Great Debate. Hi, Tanya, good morning.
Hi, and good morning from London. Beautiful sunny London at the moment. And good morning to all of you joining us. As we always say, please tell us where you're from. Tell us your location in the world. We love to hear where you're from today, where your location is, and what time zone you're in as well.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started, and we can discuss our aims today.
So our aims, as every week we like to set out very clearly for you, are debating and debating skills that sit quite nicely alongside speaking skills, but bring in lots of other things as well. An important one, obviously, not just giving, but also supporting opinions. A key skill when you're debating. And the ability to challenge opinions. And I will stress here, obviously, as a teacher, but being able to challenge people's opinions in a tone and manner that is conducive to learning. So pushing aside, even when we get upset and angry, being able to keep that, very much in check when we're challenging opinions. Keeping students' attention, something you mention every week, and something that, we really do want to ensure that we're incorporating into our webinars, is relevant topics, especially for debating. If it's a relevant topic, then students are going to be much more engaged within it. And at the end, obviously, as always, we'll do a little recap. We might even do a little testing to check what you've learned. So, opinions. Let's start with this one first of all. A really important one, going into a debate. Are you prepared to have your opinion changed in a debate? Carson, how about for you? Are you someone who goes into a debate willing and prepared to have your opinion changed?
Well, Tanya, that's a really good question. I'm a very strong personality. I'm a type A personality. And in fact, when I was in university, I was a political scientist. So I studied politics. I also have a specialty in American history. So with that said, I like to think that I'm open-minded, but I do have very strong opinions. So I think it would have to be a topic and it would have to be a well-prepared argument in order to really convince me to change my mind.
Yeah, I think, I would have to agree as well. I think I have quite strong opinions and strong beliefs as well. And particularly in subjects like education, which I feel very strongly about, probably quite difficult to sway my opinion within those areas. But I think that there may be other areas that my opinions could be swayed a little bit more. For all of our attendees today, please join us in the little chat function. Please tell us. You yourself, if you come into a debate with myself or Carson or someone else, could we persuade you to change your opinion? What do you think? Just give us a little yes or a no in our little chat function. Let us know. Can your opinion be swayed? Yes or no?
A lot of maybes, a lot of depends. There's some very optimistic people that says, yes, it is possible. Some people just with a flat out no. So that's very honest. I do appreciate the honesty there as well. Tanya and I can be quite convincing. So we'll see what happens by the end of this webinar. But yes, it looks like a lot of people are definitely open to, or at least we're willing to listen to other opinions and arguments. So that's wonderful.
And I think a really critical point and an interesting point that some of you mentioned there is that it depends on the topic. And I would have to agree. I would say that the majority of us would probably be more prepared to change our opinion depending on the topic. What do you think about that, Carson? Would you agree?
I definitely agree. I have some very strong opinions on a lot of different things. And in fact, we always joke that you and I often talk about straws, right? The plastic straws and beverages. I love drinking out of a plastic straw, and I hate paper straws, but I do understand the consequences of the environment. And I think you have the other opinion.
Yes, and I think probably everybody that knows me is well aware of my strong environmental opinions. And belief in, recycling, being eco, moving into a different era. So, again, within that, probably not so prepared to have my opinion change, but trying to convince others.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very nice, Stefania. Yes, we all learn from one another. I think that's very important. And in education, and all of us in education, that's really important. So I'd just like you to do a little bit of agreeing or disagreeing with me when we're looking at teaching debating skills. So do we agree with the following? Let's see, Carson, we'll get Carson to start us off. A good debater is able to clarify their points.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that anybody going in with, into an argument or into a debate or something where you have an opinion or a claim, which is what we're going to talk about later, I think going into it being prepared is going to be the key to be successful. So if you're into it prepared, which means that you have clarity, so you've written out all of the topics that you're going to try to cover, and you have all of the supporting documents to back you up. So reasons and examples, I think are really important to that. But I think that a good debater, is definitely able to clarify their points going through a debate.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you, definitely. I mean, clarity within any sort of debate or argument is extremely important and difficult to do, I would say, in a second language where maybe we don't have the vocabulary skills, to be able to do that, and the pronunciation as well that we can use with tone, etc., to get our points across. The second point, a good debate is when opinions change. Would you agree or disagree? Just give me a little agree or disagree in the chat. I'd love to hear from all of you. A few comments coming through there, a few agrees. Great, okay.
A lot of people agreeing with that one, that it's when opinions change. Interesting. Does anybody, or what if they don't agree to that? Anybody? Yes, we have Elena has says not necessarily. Same with Primo has said the same thing here. So interesting that there's a little bit of back and forth there. Tanya, what do you think? What do you think about a good debate is when opinions change?
Yeah, I quite like it when you've got really strong opinions on both sides. Challenging each other is really good for maybe for second language acquisition as well, because it really gives us an opportunity to challenge opinion, not necessarily change. So constant challenging of that language can be really good language actually for us to learn. Personally, I think I go in trying always to convince the other person that I'm right, always right. I think it must be the teacher in me. But again, I think it is, if it's a subject and a topic which you alluded to earlier, everybody, that I'm not skilled or knowledgeable in, then yes, if it changes, then that's a good thing. So it definitely depends on the topic. And I would,
no, I was just going to say that I think a good debate is when we learn something from the debate. So when we educate ourselves. So it's listening to both sides of the argument, because when you go into it and you believe in something, oftentimes, unless you have really good listening skills, you kind of shut down when you're listening to the opposite opinions. So a good debate is when you're able to have really active listening and you're able to hear both sides of the argument. And you just come away from the debate learning something new that you might not have learned coming into it. So I don't necessarily think the opinion has to change, but I hope that we learn something from listening to other people's opinions.
Yeah, and I think someone mentioned that I really enjoy hearing the students' strong opinion, and I think teenagers, young learners have really strong opinions actually. And I think it's so interesting seeing the future generation, their opinions, their beliefs. They'd agree with me on the straw thing, Carson, I'm pretty sure.
Well, today is Earth Day, so I'm going to let you have your paper straw.
I've got that one today. Okay. So again, I think as Carson mentioned earlier, the idea of preparing before you go to something like a debate is key actually. So pre-teaching is a really good thing that we can utilize here with our students by giving them the topic, and we'll look at some of that in a little more detail. Carson will talk us through the idea of giving them the claims and then allowing them to come up with some of these reasons, evidence, and counter arguments that we're going to look at. So again, pre-teaching in debate, a really good thing for us to have. Yep.
Excellent. All right. So let's go into and dissect a little bit about, parts of an argument. And a lot of times when we hear the word argument, we think of an argument as a negative connotation to it, a negative meaning. And that's not necessarily true. An argument is when there are two differences of opinion. So whether they are right or wrong, two different opinions would end up being an argument. And we can break an argument down into 4 real parts. Some of them are easy, and some of them I think require a little bit of additional thought. So when we look at the parts of an argument, we look at 4 different things. The first one being the claim, okay? Or maybe the thesis, you would call it. So the claim in an example here would be, the statement that you are trying to prove. So a good claim could be something like, dogs make great pets, all right? Then the next part of an argument would be the reason. So what is the reason to support your claim? The third thing is going to be the example. The examples are used to support the reasons. And then, of course, at the end is the counterclaim. Now, reason and example are the 2 things that often get mixed up. And a lot of people don't understand the differences between reasons and examples. So we want to spend a little bit of time today talking about reasons and examples. Because when we're working with our students and we're trying to prepare for a debate, we want to be able to put onto a worksheet the preparation for these 4 different columns: the claim, the reason, the example, and the counterclaim. So reasons are statements that tell why the claim is true. So if we go back to our claim that dogs make great pets, the reason for that is because they're very friendly and social animals. Okay, that is the reason to support my claim. Then I want to be able to give examples of my reason. So I said the dogs are very friendly and social animals. An example why a dog is very friendly and social would be that a dog would come and greet you at the door once you come home from the end of a very long day. So there's the difference. So the reason and then the example, and they all go back up and to support the claim. All right. The final part of that, of course, is the counterclaim. So what would somebody say against that? So in this example, Tanya, do you have a counterclaim to my arguments?
Well, actually, I was thinking, we can do devil's advocate, can't we? So again, we have some people coming up with a few here. What would you say? What would be a devil's advocate counterclaim to your own claim?
Yeah, does anybody have one of those claims?
Please come ahead and give us some counterclaims. Come and support me on this side of the argument. And just restate that claim for us again, Carson, that dogs make great pets.
Dogs make great pets.
Dogs make great pets. I mean, I do like dogs. However, we have some dog lovers here. There's lots of dog lovers, aren't there? However, some people are scared of dogs. And large dogs can be dangerous. Not just large ones, actually, small ones as well. And in Britain, we have a couple of breeds of dogs that I would not feel safe having a young child. Or we have some people who are scared of dogs as well, and that I wouldn't feel safe having some particular breed of dogs in the house with young children.
Absolutely. So there we go. So the counterclaim to my claim, so I claim that dogs make great pets. The counterclaim is simple. It's the opposite. Dogs do not make great pets. So some of the reasons that people have for that is that they're scared. Or like Tanya, you said, one of the reasons for dogs is that, sometimes they may be aggressive to that. So what would be an example of a dog being aggressive?
Yeah, so again, maybe not just barking, but biting, and I think that is the example. Would I be correct there, Carson?
Absolutely, yes. So the example to back up the reason that dogs are aggressive is that sometimes when you go to pet a dog may bite. So there's the difference. Let's go ahead and experiment this a little bit more. And for here, I'll be asking for some volunteers. So if you want to raise your digital hand here, participate with us, go ahead and do that. Be prepared to unmute your microphone. And let's look at the differences between reasons and examples. So I've got 2 statements that are going to be up here. And let's see if we can come up with the difference between the reason and the example. I've got Claudia with us now. Hi, Claudia. How are you?
Hi, well, thank you, you too.
Good. Thanks for joining us here. So here we have the claim. Okay, so let me go ahead and read the claim. Homework should be stopped. I'm sure you love hearing that as a teacher. And then I have two statements. My first statement is homework takes time away from other extracurricular activities. And then students who spend a lot of time playing sports might have trouble completing their homework. What do you think is the reason, and what do you think is the example?
Okay, so homework should be stopped. Homework takes away. The first one is the reason to me, because it takes away time from other activities.
Mm-hmm.
For example, students who play sports might have trouble completing their homework.
Absolutely, that's right. So the first one in this case, the homework takes time away from extracurricular activities, is the reason why I think that homework should be stopped. And then just as you said, Claudia, that students who spend a lot of time playing sports often have trouble completing their assignments. That is the example supporting my reason. So thank you very much. I don't know, do you agree with this, Claudia, or do you have a counterclaim?
I partially agree with this.
And that's okay too. So yeah, it's definitely one. Thanks for joining us, Claudia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Claudia.
All right, here we go. We've got another example coming up here. Let's see if we can get another person to join us. We have Constantina here as well. Let's see if we can get you to unmute your microphone. Good morning. Hi, Constantina. Can you unmute your microphone? All right, let's also try to get Anna on today. Let's see if Anna can unmute her microphone. And if anybody else would like to participate, just raise your digital hand here. We can go ahead and get that. We have Ariana. We'll give Ariana a shot. Couple more tries here before we go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Hey, Ariana, how are you today?
Can you hear me? Yeah, cool.
Good, welcome. Well,
Yeah.
here we go. So let me go ahead and read you the claim and then the two statements, and you can identify for us the reason and then the example, okay?
Okay, well, I think that the second one could be the reason. Smartphone can help student in class when needed. And the first one is the example. Indeed, student can use a smartphone as a calculator or to look up definitions.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
and I
Thank you.
partially agree with that because it is true and so useful, extremely useful. But teachers' functions, it's actually to help students look up to definitions, so it's partially correct. I partially agree with that.
Well, excellent. Thank you. And you're 100% correct. So in this example, smartphones can help students in class when needed is our reason. And the example that we gave is that smartphones can be used as both a calculator, but they can also be used to look up definitions. So they support my claim that smartphones should be allowed inside of the class. Thanks, Ariana. I appreciate you joining us today. All right, so here we go. We've got one final one. It's pretty easy. And we go back to my dog, my favorite subject, trying to convince my parents when I was younger to allow us to have a dog. Let's see if we can get Antonella on the line here. Antonella, can you unmute the microphone? Let's give it one more shot here. Hi, Antonella.
Hi.
Hey, how are you today? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you to you.
All right, so here's my claim, convincing my parents we should get a dog so I could walk and clean up after the dog every morning, and a dog would teach me to be more responsible. What do you think is the reason, and what is the example?
So I feel that the reason is the second one. A dog would teach me to be more responsible. And the example is that I could walk and clean up after the dog every morning.
Absolutely perfect. I don't know. Do you think I should have a dog?
Actually, I've got two cats.
Okay, so you're in the cat family. Good. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, Antonella. Thanks for joining us today. Antonella was 100% correct there. So once again, sorry, let's go back to that for 1 second. The dog would teach me to be more responsible is our reason. The example would be I could walk and clean up after the dog every morning. Both of those are supporting my claim that we should get a dog. So there's a little bit of the difference between reason and example And hopefully you can go back to that chart where we talk about our claim, reason, example, and counterclaim, and have your students prepare their arguments in advance so we can have great debates in our lessons. Let's go back to you, Tanya.
Point coming through, Carson, really clear, really nice, and things that we can do in that pre-teaching as well with the students. So you can use this. You will get all the slides at the end as well of the presentation, so you can take them, prepare, and send them out to your students. So we're having a look at some debate topics here. I've put 4 different debate topics down, and we'd like to get you to rank them. So which one for you of these 4 would be number 1? Which would be your favorite debate topic? Would it be global warming? Would it be animal welfare? Would it be social media websites? Or would it be job opportunities? So please put down in there your different opinion. Which one would be your favorite topic to do? And we have a real mix and match, don't we, of various different things. And I think it really does highlight to us just how diverse and different we all are in our opinions and the things that we feel strongest about. So if we were doing this debate today with us as language teachers, then we would have I think we could pick pretty much anyone, couldn't we, Carson, and get going on the debate with them?
I was going to say, those are all pretty good topics there. I think there's a lot of different opinions for all of them. But yeah, we could spend some time on each one of them.
We could spend some time on each one. Now, if I were to ask you the same about maybe doing it with your young learners, and let's look at really that sort of teenage group for debating, which one do you think that your kids would be most interested, or which would be the best kind of topic to do with them? Please go in again and type in a little.
So it seems we've narrowed it down a little bit now between 2 and 3. So animal welfare and social media websites.
Yeah, and I do honestly feel that these are going to be, and I would include number 4, maybe they're not as interested, maybe this is what we want them to do more. But I think number 2 and number 3 will be quite key topics for them going forward into the future. So I think it will be very interesting to get their opinions and debating skills. And, you know, as we looked at earlier and as Carson, you know, really clearly highlighted, giving those reasons and those examples within the debate in the pre-teaching will be really good when we come to that debate. So there are a few ideas there for you. I mean, there's so many different topics. Please feel free to type in any topics that you can share with anyone else. But what we'd like to do is to kind of zoom in, I would say, a little bit onto those debating skills. And again, debating is a productive skill. You can use all of the other skills within this, because pre-teaching will help them with reading, will help them with writing. And in debating, it is a productive skill. We're speaking, so it's coming out, but also we have to be listeners. So these 2 skills working together are really key within debating. So really good to practice for them. A good debater is able to speak clearly. Again, and that links with thinking clearly. I think, as Carson said earlier, sometimes when you're debating, you're not really listening to the other person. You're just preparing in your own head the next argument. So maybe that also is thinking clearly, clarifying your argument, providing examples critical to support that argument, and again, persuasive speech. So we're going to have a look at some of those sort of debating sub-skills, if you like. Now, obviously, debating forms part of speaking. And one of the skills that is tested a lot within debating is the ability to turn take. This is tested in FCE, in IELTS, in TOEIC, in TOEFL, in most international English language tests. Debating and turn taking is assessed. So it's a good skill to practice with the students. And discourse markers. I'm not sure, has this come up before? Have you all heard of discourse markers? If you have, please just type in there, yes, no, we know what discourse markers are, etc. Okay, so we are going to have a look at a couple. Now, discourse markers are key in speaking, in writing, in reading, so they come everywhere within language. And these are something that we can test. They're used to change direction. Anyway, as I was saying, to agree, to disagree. So little key forms of language to counter-argue. So we're going to look next at discourse markers. But before we do that, my final one, pronunciation. And I'm not talking about the pronunciation of words. I mean the tone, the stress, the way that we use our voice in communication is critical within a debate. Showing that you're angry is generally a sign of weakness. So don't show anger. Try to breathe deeply. Try some of those meditative things I'm sure we've all been doing. So we're going to have a look at some discourse markers. Anything you'd like to add there, Carson, please?
No, but there was one comment on the chat, and that is that, yes, we accidentally said turn talking skill in our sub-skills. And yes, we meant turn taking. So you're right. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you so much. Yes,
that's what happens when we have a webinar full of teachers, is that we cannot make errors. So
that's good. It was put in there purposely for you, teachers, just to check that you are actually paying attention. So let's have a look at some of the discourse markers. Now, what we'd like to do is some useful language. So if you were agreeing with somebody in conversation, not saying I agree, any other ways that you would agree with somebody, please type into our chat language that you would use to agree with somebody. Is our chat going quiet now?
it's a little bit quiet, but here we go. They think they're all coming in now. So do I. Me too. I see your point. I know what you mean. I agree. You are correct. Definitely yes. Absolutely. So lots of good language coming in here now.
Great. Okay, good. And again, you will get all of this at the end, so you can take all of these and add them. Okay. What about disagreeing? Let's all disagree with me. Come on. I don't think so. Very nice.
That was a good one. I see it differently. That's a very polite way of saying it. Neither do I, not precisely. I can't see it eye to eye. Very
So
good.
again, we have a really good range coming through there, from the formal to the informal types of discourse markers that we can use. That are, some would be more appropriate within a debate, some would be more appropriate with friends. So again, having that range and understanding that, again, is critical as language teachers teaching our students. What about changing the direction of conversation? I do this a lot with people, I must confess, okay? So I generally try to change the direction of conversation because I want it to come back to what I'm talking about. Carson, would you agree?
By the way, yes, you do it very well, but here we go.
Yeah. Great.
By the way, let's go back to, but what about, as I was saying, anyway, you know, okay, well, another subject. On the other hand, excellent one.
Yes.
So, yeah, lots of language coming in.
Lots of great language coming through there. And I think anyway is probably one of the most popular ones within the UK. We love using that. So we tend to use it, maybe overuse it a little bit. And what about to challenge somebody? If you were going to challenge somebody politely, I will stress that, okay? Politely, what kind of language could we use to challenge someone?
Really? What if? Come on. Are you sure? Honestly, I'd say that's a very polite way of trying to interject there. Would you consider? Very polite again.
Nice. So again, it's quite a few, you know, really, really strong and really good use of discourse markers coming through there. And again, those little statements. So let's have a look. I've created a little box for you. There's a few. I think you can take all the others that have been added on from this chat and put them in yourselves as well. So again, you know, agree. In addition, you want to add something. You want to contribute more to that point. I totally agree with you. And you could make that and change it to disagree. Others might argue, on the other hand, which I believe that we had as well. As I was saying, one of my favorites, as I was saying, back to me.
Like I said.
As I was saying, we could go back and forwards. And again, when we're challenging someone, you know, that's a really good point. Generally in language, we do that. We always start with agreeing and then we use the however, but, on the other. And so we can keep building that when we're challenging people, particularly debating, particularly politely. So polite. I know us British tend to be a little bit over polite sometimes. I'm sure that you'll all agree with me on my claim. So we want to get you involved. Come on, please join us. You know, we have lots of language teachers here. You all have opinions, so please join us for our little debates. We would like to start with, which is the best teaching platform to use online? For yourself, we would like you to come up with a little claim for yourself. Get your pen, get your paper. You already have your opinion quite strongly formed. Type it into chat. We've used this to help you, you know, give a reason, give an example, and you can think of some counterclaims as well.
So let's see, maybe there's two people that want to have a little bit of a debate here. If you have a claim and you have a reason, why don't you raise your hand? Let's see if we can get two people that might have opposite opinions, and we can try to go through the 4 stages of forming the argument, you know, quickly here before we end today. Does anybody want to participate with us? Or if it's just one person that wants to do it, Tanya or myself will play the counterpoint. We've got a lot of people talking on the chat. We've got a lot of people with G Suite. We've got a lot of people with Zoom. Adobe Connect. I haven't heard of that, Daniela, but that sounds interesting. So lots of people with different opinions. Let's see. We have Francesca. Let's see if we can get Francesca to unmute the microphone here and see if we can have a bit of a debate. Hi, Francesca. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. And you? Can you?
Yes, you're doing great. All right. So Francesca, why don't you make the first claim? What do you think is the best online teaching platform?
Yeah.
Which one do you think is the best one? Do you use Zoom? Do you use G Suite?
I'm using the Meet.
Meet, okay.
I am using Meet with the G Suite platform at school now.
Excellent. So what would be your reason for saying that the G Suite is the best tool for online teaching?
Which is the best teaching platform to use online?
We'll get everyone to help you, Francesca, while you're thinking. So if anybody is listening to Francesca and agreeing, you know, G Suite is really good, please feel free and type into the chat to support Francesca in that her opinion that, you know, G Suite is a really good, strong platform to use with teaching with our young learners.
So Francesca, one of your colleagues said that one of the advantages of using the G Suite is because Google has some of the best privacy protections out there for students. Would you agree with that?
Yes, but some students tell me that they can't use well that because they have some problems of connection. You know, sometimes they can't participate well. They can't hear it well. It doesn't work perfectly well.
So you've jumped ahead of us because now you're playing devil's advocate. You're giving us reasons why it's maybe not the best online teaching platform. So that's a counterclaim about the connectivity issues, which is great. So thank you, Francesca. I appreciate you being brave to raise your hand and join us today. And we'll see what else we can do here with that. Let's see with Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Can you unmute your microphone? Hi, Sandra. Looks like we're having some problems with Sandra's microphone there. No problem. All right, let's try one more here before we go ahead and move on. Let's go to Francesca. Hi, Francesca. Can you unmute the microphone? All right. Some technical difficulties there is not a problem. So Tanya, do you want us to take this a little bit?
You know what, actually, it's not a problem because I think a lot of, you know, even though, you know, we're attempting to show you how you can do this live with 2 people, you can also do this in the chat because I think really good opinions came through there with everybody chatting. So I think as well, you know, that live debate, if I were going to pick one myself, the one that I'm probably most comfortable with is Zoom. You know, I use Zoom. I also do a little lesson with my daughter. She's 6. All all of the kids are at home. So I do a little lesson with the kids for 15 minutes every week so the kids can see each other and wave. And, so Zoom is really nice for the kids because they get that facial interaction with each other for a short amount of time. So I think Zoom is a really good platform to use. I could give some counter arguments already, but I won't. What about you, Carson?
Well, Tanya, I agree that Zoom is a great software. However, I think that the Google Classroom is the best tool for the online teaching because Google integrates with a lot of different add-ons. For example, one of the add-ons that Google allows is Google Docs, so that students can also collaborate onto a shared document when doing a writing exercise, as well as being able to communicate using the video camera and speaking skills. Okay,
and what about in terms of privacy for something like the Google platform that you were talking about? They're quite good within their privacy, because that would be my only concern realistically about using something like Zoom.
Yeah, you're right, Tanya. I think that Google has some of the highest standards when it comes to privacy and data protection of all the companies that are out there. So I think privacy being one of the most important things that students and families talk about today in this new digital era that we're in, I think that Google sets the standards very high for privacy and data protection. So another reason why I think Google Classroom might be an excellent online teaching platform.
Right, okay. And I think, as you can probably all hear and allude to in my discussion with Carson, my opinions are not so strongly formed within this kind of area, because I am not skilled within the areas and the software, as it's such a new thing for us all. So I think within this kind of debate is quite a good one, because it does open you up to listen a little bit more to some of the reasons and the examples from the other side of the argument. So for most of you, that I can see that there's lots of chat going on there, which is really good. Please use this with your students. And I think, we did mention, get the students to give their opinions and select the topic. I'm sure you do that already, but I think it is a really good thing for them to put forward 5 and then to select from them. Devil's advocate, myself and Carson, I believe, are nightmares for playing devil's advocate with just about everybody. People sometimes, my friends, my family, my cousins, and anybody else sometimes says, please stop playing devil's advocate, Tanya. Sometimes I just like to play the other side of the argument. What do you think, Carson? You do the same?
I do the same thing, and I like to challenge. I think my wife doesn't appreciate my liking to play devil's advocate as much. But yes, I like the idea of learning from debate. So I like learning new things. So oftentimes, if I know that I already agree with a person about something, I might play the devil's advocate just to get to learn a little bit more information, to be able to have a conversation in a small debate format for that. So I do enjoy that.
Yeah, and I would say for all of you, just to test, do you know what devil's advocate means? Can you please just type into the chat? I just want to check that you're all aware of what it actually means. Can you please just type in for chat for us? What does devil's advocate mean? We've got some yeses. Anybody like to give a definition without Googling it? Please go ahead.
While people are typing into the chat, I would like to just discuss something that Anita has put into the chat about Zoom. And I do think that one of the best features of Zoom as a teaching platform, especially for teaching debate, is that if you use the Zoom classroom feature or the Zoom meeting feature, there's something called breakout rooms. And if you go all the way back to the second episode of MLA Talktime, Sean, who was giving us examples of the Zoom software and ways that we can use Zoom in our online teaching, was talking about breakout rooms. Breakout rooms allow you to divide the class either in half or into small groups, so that way you can automatically give them a private talking space in the middle of your class or your online lesson, to let them have an opportunity to form their debate, to form their opinions, and to make their claims, to find their reasons and get their supporting examples there. And then once you give them 5 or 10 minutes inside of your breakout room on Zoom, you can what's called bring the group back together. So you call all the students back in, all the students appear back into your Zoom meeting screen, and then you can ask them to present their opinions or their claims of their debate to the other side. So there's a lot of good software and platform out there for using debates as an online teaching platform. So thanks, Anita, for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, and I see that a lot of you understand the meaning of devil's advocate, obviously, you know, and it's a great thing to pick a student secretly and tell them that they will be the devil's advocate and they have to challenge everybody. Everyone will get annoyed with them, but you know you've given them that option. The final thing that I would say before I end is please look at the exam material that's published, that's available from Cambridge. For IELTS, FCE, CAE, looking at those speaking skills and those debate skills that are tested that we can help the students with at this moment. So giving them plenty of time to research, plenty of time to practice in debate.
All right. That brings us to the end of another MLA Talk Time webinar series. Thank you so much once again for taking a part of your day to join us here. We want to also hear from you guys about other topics that you want to hear from our MLA Talk Time series. So please take an opportunity right now to put inside of the chat 1 or 2 topics that you would like to see us cover in our upcoming webinar Talk Time series. You will also be receiving a small survey from MLA in the coming days that's going to ask about how the webinars have been going for you. Have you been watching our webinars? Have you used the content? And a little bit of extra feedback. It'll take just 2 or 3 minutes to complete. So keep an eye in your email boxes for that survey that's coming out. We look forward to continuing these free teacher training Talk Time webinar series over the next coming weeks. And we do really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today for Talk Time.
Can I just add one thing? I've noticed that some of you said that sometimes a lot of the students will scream or shout over each other. One of the best things online is you can mute them. So you can just take that little button and mute them. You're going to be quiet unless you can control that area of debating. So it's a good function to have, actually, good thing to do online. So suddenly when they go quiet, it's because obviously you've muted them, gone too far with something.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Well, that brings us to the end of our 6th episode of MLA Talk Time, The Great Debate. We hope you learned something. We'll be sending out our slides and presentations afterwards. You will have the chart so students can prepare both their claims, their reasons, examples, and their counterclaims. We hope to see you right back here next week for our 7th episode of MLA Talk Time, coming to you live every Wednesday for the foreseeable future. Thanks once again for joining us. Don't forget, we have our MLA Chit Chat Club coming up for students tomorrow. And we have our MLA Kitchen episode. We're going to be going to Brighton for some traditional British scones with jam and clotted cream. That's happening on Friday. And for all the information about our webinar series, don't forget mlaworld.com/webinar for all the upcoming dates and registrations. We also will be publishing this Friday all of the past MLA webinar episodes online on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Look out for us on Facebook and Instagram. Look for us on YouTube for all the past episodes of MLA webinars. Thanks again, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.